much. So let's get in here. It's great to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out for the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.
So before we get into the work that you're doing today, I want to begin with this. 6 years ago, this pandemic changed so much about our lives. It was a big fork in the road. How
Yeah.
did you get through that COVID era, and how has it changed the way that you do things now?
It's interesting that you brought that up because I was just recently thinking about that very thing because it was such a big change for so many people. But for me, okay, two things. Number one, I was already working from home and didn't go out so much. So for me, it was not such a big difference. And also living in Florida, we still could go out. Restaurants were outside, the tables were set up. However, I still had my performing arts school in Virginia that I, went back and forth to. And we just finished our 25th anniversary show. It was beautiful, spectacular, and it felt like that was kind of a nice bow put on an end of an era. And for some times, I have been thinking about selling the business, and I made a decision that was it. And that was just a few months prior to COVID.
Wow.
But now you can now imagine what happened when COVID hit.
Yeah.
We literally were not allowed to conduct business. And for a business who is depending on people coming in and out, you're teaching them in person. That was devastating. And so literally we lost half of our clientele. The rest stayed. And very quickly I put everything online. Luckily, I was very comfortable with Zoom and did some Zoom lessons before, but not in that extent. So, and I wanted to help the teachers to keep them employed. So I needed to do something. And very quickly, we put the lessons online, and that went for about a year. And we were not allowed to do quote unquote recitals, our shows. So that was another adapt I had to adapt to it. We had already bought the costumes, everybody paid for the costumes. So I had to make sure we were able to do it. And luckily, by summer, we were able to do like a certain amount of numbers. So we did it class by class in one of our bigger rooms that we had. So, yeah, if I think about that one, it was a big change we
Yeah,
had to.
for sure it was. So let's get into the kind of the post-COVID world and the work you're doing now. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day, and one of the kids wants to know what you do for a living. How do you answer them?
I use my gifts and talents and skills that I've learned doing something what I love and help others who love the performing arts, dance, acting, music, to do the same, to teach them the skills that I so much love. And I hope I can teach this to you as well.
So what did you want to be when you were that age? When you were a kid, was it always going to be entertainment, acting? Was it going to be this world?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was. It was. And I remember watching a musical on TV, and I was just dancing. I was always performing. That's what I heard from my parents, right? She's always like in the middle, she's always performing. And I didn't know that's what I wanted to do when I grow up. But yes, I did it already.
So take me back to where you were born and raised. What were the seeds that were planted that became this world that you've made for yourself?
I grew up in Hamburg, Germany, lower middle class family. After Second World War, if you're really thinking about it, it's hard to imagine. But when a town was totally destroyed, it takes a lot to rebuild. And I lost my father at the tender age of 3. So my mother was defending for herself. She grew up in World War II, so no education, very little income. So we always struggled in that regard. However, I never thought of it because we always did fun things. And the difference was not so much at home, but the environment that I was exposed to. So when I went to like summer camps, there was always plays and I played it. I always got the lead role. And in school, I joined a choir and I joined the drama club and we did things. And I was always part of that. So I knew this is what I enjoy doing. However, I did not know that you could do this as a career at that time.
So what were some productions? What were some things that you watched growing up that really moved you, that galvanized the idea that you wanted to be in this world?
Mm. All these old time musicals, tap dancing, Fred Astaire, you're singing in the rain, The Wizard of Oz. That didn't tap dance in there, but all these things were just fascinating to me. It was this make believe, but it was not just the acting, it was also that movement, because I'm very physical, as you probably can see. And I love to move and dance, and that brings me such joy.
So talk to me a little bit about inspirations. Who's inspired you to have this career and to navigate from, from one career choice to another? Hero, inspiration, who has that been?
Hmm. I was a teacher of mine, and I still remember that, Joe. you know I started out working for a business insurance. I was a claim adjuster after I was done with my business education. And I was just miserable. I was unhappy. I gained weight. And one day I found myself literally staring out of the window, thinking, oh my God, I cannot do this for the next 40 years. When you're young, in your early 20s, it seems like a lifetime. And then I ask one question: what is the next step for me? What is mine to do? And a few days later, it was a summer day and I came from the subway after work and I went down home. And then in the distance, I saw my old drama and music teacher. And I always loved him. I was probably secretly in love with him, but you know how it is when you're a kid. And I was an adult now, and we had some chit chat. And then he asked me if I was still active with my singing and acting group that I had after school ended. And my answer was no. And then he said one thing that literally changed my entire life. And if you think about something out of this world, you would be mistaken. He said, what a shame, Sabine. You are so talented. This was literally like a wake up call. He said that, and that reminded me, yes, I am. Someone else saw something in me, because my parents, my family had nothing to do with this industry. And it was up to me to make a decision, not my parents anymore, not my circumstances. It was me. And then I did something that back then there was no Google. We didn't have all this information on our fingertips. I opened up the yellow pages and called an acting school. I looked acting school and said, yeah, I would like to start. What do I need to do? I need to audition. And that's what I did, even though I had no idea how to audition. And I did it all wrong. But I was just raw and enthusiastic and talented. And I guess that was enough.
Wow. So I'm curious, coming to America from Germany, we all right now are looking at this country like, what's going on? And it's bizarre to all of us, as I'm sure it is to you and others. Being a creative, making and being in this world of productions, this line between fiction and reality, what is your take on what's going on right now from any perspective of what's happening in this country?
Oh, wow, that's a loaded question.
Yeah, and I don't want to get into anything overtly political, but I think I'm thinking about it from a creative perspective.
Right, right. And this is how I see it. Of course, still having my family and friends in Germany, I hear from both sides. And from the creative part, what we always have done, and sometimes is being looked at as one-sided. Let me just keep it there, right? But from the creative point of view, we always took some life experiences, history, or whatever we are facing right now, and created something that spoke to people in different ways. And of course, the creative outlets in so many different ways: movies, TV, songs, even dance interpretation, books. Everybody, and this is my true belief, they're using their specific gifts and talents to put something into a creative form and outlet that people could make sense of it, or maybe people understand better. But most importantly, for me, if someone can create an art, movie, song, whatever it is, painting, and can bring it in a way to bring people together, for me, that is magic. And when that magic happens, it can be such a healing process to say, look, at the end, it's not they or us or black or white or red or blue. We all want, on the very basic, the same thing. We want to be happy, wanted to have a roof over our head. We want to connect with other people. And and of course, sometimes it's very hard for us to see it, but if we can do it, and I think the arts is playing a big factor in it. If we can bring people together to see the unity, that we all are one species, we are human beings. Yeah, we have different perspectives, but sit back and start to listen to that. And that's, I think, is one place in the performing arts or in the arts uh, as a whole. I hope it makes some
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, it does. And when I talk to jazz musicians, it's really about, music and art has always held a very hallowed place
Mm-hmm.
in I know in American history for people to feel connected, to feel
Yeah,
like they can get through it. There's a level of solidarity, and I think that's going to happen all across the arts with everything that's happening right now. That's kind of the bigger point. Um,
exactly. And Joe, to that topic, music. I'm also a singer-songwriter. I am writing music, and it's always helped me, number one, to express my feelings. But throughout my career, I started writing music, started at my church, because I always wanted to bring another level of the message of the minister who had that message, to bring it into people's hearts. I believe music is the back door to people's hearts, because it's not just the lyrics, it's not just the spoken words, but also the melody. The melody has an energy attached to it. And then, of course, different people like different musics because we are different people, right? But that helps us also to understand, to feel, have empathy, or just feel better. Or somewhat, if you listen to a music and the lyrics and the music matches, oh my gosh. Of course, I'm a singer songwriter. I I'm a storyteller. I tell stories through my songs, right? And when you can reach another person, Joe, I tell you, so many times people came back to me and said, "Oh my God, your music touched me," or my mother who was in the hospital listened to that song over and over again that helped her went through. I that that gave me speechless, and I knew that I used my talent given to me by my creator in the right way.
So, what is it that gives you the energy to do all of this, to help other people, to impart your wisdom, to continue to grow and to love this art form? What is that for you every day?
Uh, I I love what I do. I truly do. And yes, I shifted. Of course, I had a 10-year career as a performer, actress, musical theater performer. Then I shifted to start my school. And in that capacity, I learned and I understood, ooh, I really am a teacher. I am a sage, a mentor. And I saw the impact that I had on the students. And that was phenomenal. And that made me happy. And then when I closed my school after 27 years, because I knew it was time, it was time. I always hear to that inner whisper, right? Which I changed in my upcoming memoir too, the sacred whispers that we all have. But that whisper was okay, you've done that. It's the next level, it's the next step that you have to do. And for me, that was helping in a bigger way. Of course, I'm working with entrepreneurs, helping them get their message out, because if they can do it in a more impactful and profound way to reach more people, you see, that starts a ripple effect. So my teachings to become better communicators help that entrepreneur to then help thousands, and that entrepreneur help thousands, that spreads it out. But that is one part that I love. I love being with people and teaching them. The other is now I'm back on stages because, of course, I love the stages, right, as a
Yeah.
performer. And now I'm doing keynotes. And when I speak and feel that energy when you're on stage and you connect, ah, I I love that. And then every day waking up, sometimes I wake up like 5 or 4. And when I'm working on a project, that, okay, I it goes through in my mind, okay, what is the next step? What do I want to do? And I sit down and I go on my computer and start writing. And this gives me the joy and the energy. And this is when you do what you love, of course, you also have to take care of yourself, right? It's
Yeah.
not just that. Have enough sleep, drink enough water, have a supplementation, good food. And I do all of that. But that's, in a nutshell, keeps me going.
Talk to me about gumption. How much fun was it to relive parts of your life, to put it all into one compact written place? What was the process like?
It was scary. It was, once I committed to that, okay, I'm writing it now. Then there were those blank pages. And at the very beginning, I said, okay, I'll just dictate, right? Because I can speak. But then it's like, then there's some more. But then I went to go above the stories. It was a process of rebirthing a lot of things. And then I realized, wow, it's a much bigger project than just sharing your stories or your life, because each story taught me so much. And each experience gave me that wisdom that I now pass on. And in my pages, I just didn't want to say, do this, do this, do this. No, because I don't think that this is what people want to hear or are open to hear. But what people want is to find something. And if you can find your answer, or you get those aha moments when you read a book or listen to it for that matter, and that is not preachy, but is more of an invitation, that's when you can make an impact. And through that writing process, I found that. And on top of that, I also have to tell you, I worked with an editor, because you have to have an editor. Sometimes I have another book where I do the edits for other people's stories. But when you write your own story, you need someone else to take a look from a bird's eye view. And she was fantastic. And we had conversations. And, there was always something missing. And we had conversations. And she said, that's what you have to put in there. And this was towards the end, really. And it was like where I shared a couple insights and a very personal things. And that made the whole difference. So to give you that answer, it was scary, it was exciting, it was fun. And right now, as of this recording, I don't know when this comes out, I'm 1 week away to
Yes.
publishing date,
And
August 4th.
yeah.
And it's exciting. I have a book reading and launch party, and so people will come, and I do a reading and signing, and that's just the beginning. And I've never been, even though I wrote 3 books, but it was for different reasons, different purpose. Now it goes back to another question you asked me earlier. Why am I doing this? This is the first part of making a difference. And I wanted to spread that message of gumption. When you listen to those sacred whispers, bold moves, and the courage to become, that's the tagline. You cannot be anything else but successful in your life.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 18-year-old version of you and you walk into a room and there's a film projector. You click play and a 60-second highlight reel of your life comes up. Would that young version of you believe your life turned out this way?
I don't know, because when I see that projector, I just see I just laughing, having joy in life, and one thing I know, I always knew that my life would be joyful. I I did not know that it would be where I am today. To tell you the truth, I had no idea. I was very much in the moment. I always lived in the moment. And that is joy and laughter and just being enthusiastic.
So in that highlight reel, what are you the happiest about? What are you the proudest of that you've done with your life?
Mm. The proudest stuff is, following my calling, I would say, all over, but there are some highlights. And one of them definitely being married. That's on my personal life. But starting the school, that was not, well, starting this career. And of course, there were some great roles that I played, but then starting the school and making an impact of so many young people's life, and the feedback that I got. Then the other highlight was when I finally took the music that that I wrote, or that I received, I shall say. Sometimes I have no idea where those those words came from, and even the melody. I was just playing around, so I just kind of more of an instrument. But I tell you, back then, I wanted to create my first CD. Somebody said you should write a CD, create a CD. I had no idea, so I invested 10 grand to to go to Nashville and went rented a studio and the studio musicians, and I sent them just to scratch a tape. Like back then we had tapes, and I recorded on my guitar just so they had an idea. And then when I came to the studio for the first time, when I had those those earphones on, and I heard those five musicians bringing the idea that I had about that song to life. And then 2 days later, I was invited to the mixing room to listen to all the songs that were recorded, and I, of course, sang them all. That moment, I had an outer body experience, I think. I couldn't believe that the songs that were once in my head and just plunging on the guitar or on the piano were like that. And this was one of the proudest moments in my life. And so that's what I saw. And then just, I guess if you go forward in the now moment, I think that was one of the things when I opened that box and
Yeah.
then this book came out.
Yeah.
Right. And that was, oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
That's wonderful. I love it. So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, fans, clients, colleagues, everyone knows you in a certain role, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I am that little girl that is in front of the creator. I'm always that little girl. And I'm also that wise woman that I am today. And that combination is Sabine, the friend, Sabine, the mentor, the sage, the wife, the doggy mom. It's just Sabine, Sabine with gumption.
I love it. The book comes out August 4th. If anybody wants to get a copy or if they want to reach out, they want to hire you, see you speak any of the good business, where's the best place to go?
Go to my website, sabinekvenberg.com. You can get the resources. You can get in touch with me. And if somebody's just listening, is not maybe driving, you can also go to talktosabine.com and schedule a time on my calendar, and the team or myself will get in touch with you. And of course, the book is available around the world.
I love it. Sabine, what a joy. I love this. Thank you so much for your story. Thank you for your time. You're a pro. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe, for having me.
You bet.